Welcome birders to YouTube. Today we're learning about Phoebes. There are 3 birds known by the name Phoebe, an approximation of the call they make. This makes the Phoebe one of the few real-life animals that follows Pokemon rules and goes around saying its name. All 3 Phoebes are small birds roughly the same size as a sparrow. Like many birds, Phoebes are capable of puffing up the feathers on their heads, so they sometimes look like they have a little crest. The black Phoebes in my neighborhood do this so often that for a while I thought they always looked like that, and I was a little shocked the first time I saw one with a smooth-looking head. Much like industrial vacuum cleaners, this bird comes in wet, dry, and combo models, at least when it comes to nest construction. Here's our wet model, also known as the black Phoebe. This bird sort of looks like they were supposed to be all black, but accidentally sat in a tray of white paint. If you're in South America, you'll see black Phoebes with more white on them in the form of these beautiful white wing bars. Juvenile black Phoebes have cinnamon-colored wing bars. Black Phoebes are found along the west coast and southwestern states of the United States, in most of Mexico, and parts of South America. They always live very close to a body of water, which they depend on for mud to build their nests. Black Phoebes make cup-shaped adherent nests, meaning that they're cemented to a vertical surface like a rock cliff or a wall. They need to make a lot of trips back and forth from where they collect mud to where they're building the nest by spitting the mud against a wall. So that means that many times a day they're flying the distance between their mud source and their nesting site with their mouths full of mud. Just imagine how much you'd enjoy having your mouth full of mud, and you'll understand why they want their nesting site to be as close as possible to their mud source. In fact, a compound in their saliva called mucin plays an important role in turning the mud into a material that is strong enough to hold its shape and stay up. Like all Phoebes, they also prioritize finding a spot with an overhang to protect them from the weather. While the other 2 types of Phoebes have more traditional migration patterns, black Phoebes mostly prefer to stay put. When they do migrate, it tends to be short distances, sometimes even just down a mountain for the winter and back up again when it's warmer. Our dry model, the Say's Phoebe, meanwhile, is dressed to blend into the deserts and open plains that they tend to live in, brown on top with a cinnamon-colored belly. You'll find the Say's Phoebe all along the western half of North America, from Mexico up to Canada and Alaska. In fact, the Say's Phoebe's breeding range extends further north than any other bird in the tyrant flycatcher family. A few people have even observed them nesting on the Alaska pipeline. Say's Phoebes very rarely use any mud at all in the construction of their nests. As you can see from this picture, Say's Phoebes can construct a nest from whatever they find lying around, from plant detritus to wool and spider's webs. While still cup-shaped, unlike the adherent nests of the black Phoebe, these nests are statent, meaning they need something beneath them to support them. Say's Phoebes are pretty flexible about what they use as supports, though. This Phoebe has built her nest on a toilet roll in an outhouse. So, as you can see, while Phoebes are extremely adaptable and able to make do in human environments, that sometimes comes at an uncomfortable cost to their human neighbors. I hope no people need to use that outhouse. They might need to hold it for a few months. I also found that an astonishingly high percentage of photos of the Say's Phoebe were ones where they were perched on barbed wires. My absolutely professional conclusion is that they enjoy flaunting their freedom. Or perhaps they see themselves as inspirations, using their presence to tell fenced-in cows, horses, and sheep that they should aspire to flight in their next incarnations. Either way, there they are, completely undaunted and unrestrained, master of the barrier atop which they sit. And here we have the very talented combo model, the Eastern Phoebe. Eastern phoebes look similar to the Say's phoebe, but with a white-colored belly instead of a cinnamon one. Unlike with the black phoebe, the white carries all the way up to their chins. They have a territory that covers most of the eastern half of North America, and even pushes far enough west that they do have a small amount of territory overlap with both the Say's phoebe and the black phoebe. The most versatile nesters in the bunch, eastern phoebes can build nests that are either adherent or statent. But as you can see here, even their statent nests often use quite a bit of mud, unlike the drier nests of the Say's phoebe. Like the rest of the genus, eastern phoebes have adapted well to sharing space with humans and often build their nests on man-made structures. If you search for photos of the eastern phoebe, you'll find a lot of pictures from delighted birders who are willing to put up with the inconvenience of not using their porch, their shed, or other parts of their homes in order to give space to eastern phoebes who have settled in for the breeding season. You'll also often find that these befuddled birds have chosen their spot poorly and settled in on a ceiling fan or a hanging light, risking their nests anytime the wind comes in. They might be masters of nest architecture, but unfortunately they have yet to learn the fundamentals of human architecture. Despite their distinct coloration, nest-building habits, and territory ranges, the three types of phoebe otherwise have a lot in common. All three have a habit of reusing their old nests. They often return not only to the same mating area each year, but even to the same nest location. And if their old nest is still there, and it often is, they patch it up instead of building from scratch. These birds have a lot in common with HGTV house flippers. They even sometimes fix up old nests from other birds like barn swallows and robins. Old phoebe nests are also very popular with other birds. There's a whole nest economy going on here. There's even a documented instance of some house finches adding their nest to a black phoebe nest that already had eggs in it. The two females took turns incubating the eggs for a week, but then they both gave up and abandoned the nest. I guess it's a lot more complicated to cohabitate with roommates than it is to renovate an old home. Those finches might have been confused when they added their eggs to a phoebe nest, but brown-headed cowbirds like to put their eggs into phoebe nests on purpose. Cowbirds practice brood parasitism, which means that rather than making their own nests, they put their energy into laying as many eggs as they can, usually more than 30 a year, and leave them in the nests of other birds. All three types of phoebes are known to host brown-headed cowbird eggs in their nests, and they even make very good foster parents to these chicks, despite the fact that it means their own chicks are outcompeted for food and don't always survive. Unlike some other brood parasites like the cuckoo, cowbird chicks don't directly endanger their nestmates. In fact, cowbird chicks in phoebe nests end up getting more food if there are more chicks in the nest making hungry chirps. The most common danger to phoebe chicks here is that the cowbird will hog the resources and they will be underfed. Phoebes don't tend to reject cowbird eggs, even though some birds do. One study found that phoebes tend to assess their nests not by counting eggs, but by volume, so they may even prefer the larger cowbird eggs to some extent. So, if you see a phoebe nest with a cowbird egg in it, what should you do? Audubon magazine says, leave it alone. Not only are cowbirds a protected species in the United States, removing a cowbird egg may not have the consequences you'd like. Mother cowbirds often monitor the nests where they've left eggs and may retaliate by destroying a clutch where her own egg was destroyed or removed. And even if that doesn't happen, the mother phoebe may abandon a nest to start over if she feels there aren't enough eggs left. Thankfully, Cornell University lists all three types of phoebes as low concern when it comes to their conservation status. So, while it might be sad to watch a nest of phoebes lose out to a cowbird, overall they're doing very well. Do you want to know more about the brown-headed cowbird? Me too. Let's talk about those weird little guys next time. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications if you want to be alerted when that video comes out. While they're good parents and extremely tolerant of brood parasites, when it comes to other adult birds, phoebes are territorial loners. In fact, phoebes are such introverts that the female phoebe will often chase her male partner away from the nest while she's incubating the eggs. They just need that alone time to recharge. Despite the fact that she chases him away, though, most phoebes will return to the same mate year after year, and the male will stay pretty close during the breeding season. One study of eastern phoebes found that the vast majority of them only found a new mate if their old one doesn't show up the next year. Less than 5% snubbed old partners in favor of someone new. This all sounds a bit like my marriage, actually. I'll always come back to you, baby, but please go away for a little while. The mating season begins like a charade-style version of House Hunters. The male will take the female on a tour of prospective nest sites, performing a little dance in front of each one while she contemplates it. If the female likes the spot, she might respond by making nest-shaping movements. He makes his living hunting free-range bugs. She makes hers through artisanal basket weaving, and just like on HGTV, their housing budget must come from inherited wealth. In this case, the wealth of Mother Nature. Eventually, she'll select a site and then begin construction of the nest on her own. The male will stick around and eventually help feed the hatchlings and defend from predators. But in addition to building the nest, the female usually incubates the eggs on her own. Although incubation patches, which are bald spots on the belly from sitting on the eggs, have very occasionally been found on male black phoebes. The Say's phoebe has been studied less than the other two, so it's possible that the male participates more, but we don't really know much for sure, other than that the pair stays fairly close together. In Say's phoebes, it is sometimes the female who will propose potential nest sites, so they do diverge at least a bit from other phoebes in that regard. All three types of phoebe usually have 2 broods per year. Taxonomically, phoebes have a genus all to themselves, Sayornis. The genus, as well as the Say's phoebe, are both named after 19th century naturalist Thomas Say, who was most famous for his work with insects and mollusk shells. But while he is credited as the first scientist to describe the Say's phoebe, it wasn't Say himself who named these birds. That honor goes to Charles Lucien Bonaparte. If you're thinking Bonaparte like Napoleon, you are, in fact, spot on. Charles Lucien Bonaparte was Emperor Napoleon Bonaparte's nephew. They may have had the same nose, but they definitely didn't have the same passions. Despite family pressures, Charles devoted himself to the highest calling I can imagine, ornithology. Moving up the taxonomic tree, phoebes are in the tyrant flycatcher family, which makes them subaucines. That means they're in order Passeriformes with songbirds, but they're not quite as advanced in their singing. While songbirds learn their songs by listening to their parents and sometimes even improvise, the chirps of phoebes are innate, not learned. In fact, they make the same noises even if they're born deaf. As with most flycatchers, the sexes are similar looking and hard to tell apart. Both males and females sing, although the males sing more frequently. A group of flycatchers can be called a swatting or a zapper, referring of course to their habit of playing mean tricks while they're gaming online. Okay, just kidding. It's about the bug eating. Like the rest of the flycatcher family, phoebes are insectivores. They will eat fruits and berries when insects are scarce, but the vast majority of their diet consists of bugs. And because bugs have a lot of indigestible bits to them, phoebes make pellets. That means they regurgitate a 4 to 9 millimeter mass of things like beetle forewings, bug eyes, spines, and other parts. Last month we talked about New Zealand wrens, who do a lot of their insect hunting without flying at all, as they're naturally poor flyers. In contrast, phoebes are fantastic flyers. and they catch a lot of their prey mid-flight. They use a strategy called sit-and-wait predation, which means they spend a lot of time just chilling on a perch, only sallying out when they spot a bug they want to catch. While they sit, they pump their tail. Phoebes pump their tails a lot faster when a potential predator, like the eastern screech owl, is around. Scientists believe that tail pumping is a way for Phoebes to tell their predators that they know they're around, and also to indicate that they're skilled flyers who would be hard to catch. Since they spend a lot of time out in the open in a single spot, it probably helps them a lot to have a signal that basically says to predators, "Hey, I'm not worth the effort of chasing." Black Phoebes are a little bit more varied than their cousins when it comes to diet. They go fishing. They use the same sit, wait, sally forth strategy they use for bugs to catch minnows from the surface of a pond or lake. One study reports a pair of black Phoebes taking seeds from a bird feeder near Sacramento. In my own yard, also coincidentally in the Sacramento area, I have noticed at least one black Phoebe hanging out near my bird feeder. I assumed it was there to hunt bugs in the garden, but on several occasions I have seen a black Phoebe take one of the peanuts that I sometimes put out for my neighborhood crows. So, do all black Phoebes have a more varied diet than has been recorded so far? Or is it just the Sacramento black Phoebes that are feeling adventurous? Will peanut-eating black Phoebes draw ornithologists to my yard like milkshakes? Well, if that happens, I'll be sure to let you know. Until then, we'll just have to wonder together. In the meantime, don't forget to like, subscribe, and come back next time to learn more about brown-headed cowbirds with me. And I promise after that we'll branch out a bit and talk about birds who aren't passerines. All art in this video is mine. All photos, maps, bird songs, and the video clip are from Wikimedia Commons. Check the description below for links to those and to my research. Alright, for now, sally forth and do something else, dear birders.